Support WrestleTalk!
Donate on Patreon. Hello and welcome to Fantasy Booking Warfare. I'm Oli'Davis and today I'm here to book my version of the Undisputed Era's main roster debut. This was voted on by pledge hammers to our Patreon page. If you want to suggest some of your own scenarios that we fantasy book, head on over to our Patreon page and become a $25 plus or more pledge hammer there, and you'll get loads of other stuff too. But for now, I'm gonna pitch this, and the idea is Luke's also done a separate video. Go and watch his as well, but enjoy mine more. And there is an eye above my head, which if you click, you'll be able to vote for either mine or Luke's. And then we'll accumulate the results and we'll do something with them. We're very well known for having high-class stakes and savage punishments. But for now, indulge me. This is a new setup and I'm weirded out, and I'm hopefully it's gonna be as good. And I'm nervous about this, I'm genuinely nervous. Here is my booking of the Undisputed Era's main roster debut. Imagine a world. It's a post-WrestleMania world where dreams are possible and Finn Balor has actually been built up as a credible title challenger. That sounds insane. Give me that one. This is fantasy booking and, smark points. And for extra smark points, Drew McIntyre is the Universal Champion. That doesn't actually play into anything, who the Universal Champion is. It just matters that they're a heel champion right now. But again, smark points. So Finn Balor has been built up as a title challenger and he's going for the Universal title at Backlash. So usually WrestleMania happens and then you get those same matchups for Backlash. Not this year, it's a whole new era, you might say. So the superstar shakeups happened, there's been some NXT call-ups, but no Undisputed Era in sight. Anyway, looks like they've got another year at least in NXT. So Finn looks like he has this match won. He's gone up for the coup de grace, he hits it, the ref is counting, we're gonna have a new Universal Champion, but then the referee gets pulled out and beaten up by someone wearing a hoodie to mask their face, and all of a sudden there's two others in the ring, like wolves, just beating up Balor in the ring, and then a fourth person comes down, also in a hoodie, obscuring their face, cockily walking down with a lead pipe, and he starts sort of directing the beatdown on Balor. This guy is obviously the person in charge here, and the spot that they use specifically is getting that lead pipe and not using it in a club-like manner, but in a sort of pokey manner, like how Triple H uses a sledgehammer, but without the hand protecting the most dangerous part of the weapon. And he does this on Finn Balor's shoulder. Remember that torn labrum shoulder injury that he got when he made his debut, and then he had to vacate the Universal title not long after. So Balor's been taken out, he's like really selling his shoulder, and then they knock him out with the lead pipe as well. He had the Universal title won there, but then security and random members of the roster, just to give it an element of realism, like these are just fans who have run in here. They run down and they chase off these guys in hoodies, and the guys in hoodies escape through the crowd. Meanwhile, Drew is like, I'm gonna pin this guy. So he gets the pin on Balor. The ref's back in, but he has been beaten up. It's a slow count, but it's not enough. Drew wins and retains. And while Drew's celebrating and the pay-per-view's going off air and Balor is in the ring being tended to, like his shoulder is in so much pain, in the crowd, Cole removes his hood. It's Adam Cole, and then Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong also reveal themselves underneath the hoods while Balor's being tended to. Now, the next night on Raw, the babyface Raw general manager, doesn't really matter who it is, let's just say it's Kurt Angle, he's set up security everywhere and he cites this heinous attack by a rogue group of NXT wrestlers, Cole, Fish, O'Reilly and Strong, who are known as the Undisputed Era. And Drew, being a heel champion, he's like, well, I'm not going to appear on this show unless there's security in place, because it was really scary for me last night when, it was Balor who was beaten up. It's just a typical heel move. And throughout the night on commentary, the commentators are recapping the Undisputed Era's attack at Backlash, and they're also going through what they did in NXT, just sort of their accomplishments, and also how they ran roughshod over that promotion too. Now, the main event, again, fantasy booking, indulge me, the current tag champs are a very well booked babyface Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, and they're feuding with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who are they're bad guys, they're heels, but they're kind of a cool Edge and Christian style, serious heel team, but they're also doing a lot of comedy. So it's that balance I want to strike with those guys. And the main event, so that's a feud that's going on. It's Owens versus Rude in the main event. They go about 15 minutes, but then the Undisputed Era attack Chad Gable at ringside. Chad is in Bobby's corner and then attack Bobby in the ring as well. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are mysteriously left alone, and they run away because they're kind of that comedy heel act. But then Balor hobbles out and he's still selling the shoulder, but the Undisputed Era escape and they're laughing, being all cocky. So the next episode of Raw, let's just call it Raw 2 for now, for structure's sake, it's built up around these NXT wrestlers known as Undisputed Era. They will be here tonight live to explain their actions. And when it comes to the time, it's meant to be an in-ring segment, but they don't show up. It's a live feed from another location using that sort of classic Undisputed Era backdrop of steel structures and weird lighting just bouncing off things in the background. And Cole says that he's studied all the debuts of NXT wrestlers over the years to see where they've gone wrong. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens were called up and they get a match against John Cena right away. But soon after that, they kind of fade into the mid-card. He wouldn't say mid-card though. Samoa Joe was called up as Triple H's bitch. You got to say a naughty word to get a big pop. Remember that for later on. And then after that, he lost every WWE opportunity he had. And now he's out injured again. By the way, Samoa Joe's injured right now. Shinsuke Nakamura was called up and he was fighting for SmackDown's top title in months, but he never won the big one. And most of all, Finn Balor, you were called up. And just a few weeks later, you won the Universal title, but you couldn't shoulder the responsibility. You all failed because you were handed those opportunities. You've been handed every single thing you were given and you still failed. But we're not here because we were good boys in NXT. We're not going to get opportunities because we blew smoke up Triple H's ass and took a nice photo of him pointing with us. We don't want your opportunities. We want titles, and screw handouts because we're just going to take them. Raw, welcome to the Undisputed Era. And this whole motivation ties into their shock the system mantra, so they're really upheaving the status quo in WWE. Later in that night, we've got Sami and Kevin Owens taking on the Usos for the number one contenders slot to Bobby, Rude and Chad Gable's tag team titles, because last week was kind of a write-off. So midway through this match, the Undisputed Era attack with lead pipes and Michael Cole screaming they weren't supposed to be here, and they throw the Usos out, and they really focus this attack on Zayn and Owens, who were the guys who were almost spared last week. A bandaged Balor hobbles down with a steel chair, but the Undisputed Era just walk away through the crowd again because Balor can't get down there fast enough. They can just go off at a steady pace, and Balor's shouting at the Undisputed Era, and while he's doing this, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn slowly get to their feet. They've just been beaten down by lead pipes, they're kind of disorientated, and Balor opens himself up to them and says like, guys, we've got a common enemy there, we need to team together and just sort of look out for each other. But Owens and Sami pause for a moment, almost like they're considering it, and they might turn babyface, but then they just body check Balor on the way out, just give him a bump with their shoulders and walk off anyway, and Balor is alone in the ring. So Raw 3, the third week of Raw, Michael Cole announces the Undisputed Era will be competing in their debut match tonight. But because they said they'd only show up if it's for a title, because they're about titles, not opportunities, anything else isn't worth their time. So given recent weeks and how the tag champs want some revenge, Kurt has booked a tag title match for tonight's main event. It's going to be the Undisputed Era versus Chad Gable and Bobby Roode. And later on there's a backstage segment where Balor approaches Owens and Sami in the locker room and said, look, we've all been attacked by Undisputed Era now, and you walked away from me last week, but we need to look out for each other. If we band together, we can take these guys out. And Owens and Sami, doing their comedy stuff, are like, we don't want to be a part of anyone's stupid club. We've got each other. We're Team Kevin and Sammy. That's their actual name. And we don't need anyone else. So the main event is the Undisputed Era versus Chad Gable and Bobby Roode. Adam Cole cuts a promo on Gable and Roode before the match, sort of running down their main roster careers. Hey Gable, you can even keep your tag team with Jason Jordan together because he ran off with his daddy. Ooh, sick burn. And Bobby, you're just an entrance theme and a robe. And you still haven't even got a tag team name. Maybe you should be called the NXT Call-Up Support Group. And they all kind of, do their Undisputed Era chuckles, but then Roode and Gable hold up the titles and point at those. These say differently, chaps. And then, you got the better of us there, we're heels, grrr. And the Undisputed Era huddled to decide their lineup. Of course, it's the Red Dragon lineup of O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. So, Undisputed Era work over the faces for the majority, but after a bit of a face comeback, Cole and Strong distract the ref. This brings down Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn running down to fight them off. This is their revenge plan that they don't need Balor for. There's a ref bump, it turns into a 4-on-4 brawl, but Sami accidentally haluva kicks Gable. O'Reilly knees Sami over the top rope, and this lets Fish drag the ref over and run in for the pin. It's a slow count, I love those, and it's a title change. Undisputed Era are your new champs. All four of them scamper up the ramp right away with the titles, laughing, doing their Undisputed Era pose. I hope I'm doing it right. And Gable and Roode are looking dejected, and Owens and Sami are just like, what did we just do? That was an accident. Oh no. This is the start of a slow face turn for now for KO and Sami. So the fourth week of Raw, which is the go-home show for that weekend's Money in the Bank, is Undisputed Era celebrating in the opening segment, and they put over how they won the tag titles in their debut match because they took the titles, not the opportunity. They weren't handed anything. And Kurt walks out and says, hey, you're obviously such good fighting champions. And Strong's there off camera like, we are great fighting champions. And Kurt says, well then, you'll be happy to defend the titles in a three-way at Money in the Bank against Gable and Roode and Owens and Sami this weekend. Oh, Undisputed Era are angry. Money in the Bank, the tag titles match. Earlier in the night, Cole and Strong take out Gable and Roode before the match, quite early on in the night, with the whole lead pipe thing. That's sort of their weapon of choice. And this means that it's only O'Reilly and Fish defending against Owens and Zayn. It's a normal tag match with Gable and Roode not able to come down even though their entrance music plays. So during the match, it's a good match, goes about 15 minutes. There's a big quadruple down. Fish, O'Reilly, Owens, Zayn, they're all down. And the crowd all get to their feet and do that sort of, hopefully, this is awesome. It's that big quadruple down spot. But then wait, who's that hobbling down? It's Chad Gable! He hobbles down the ramp, he gets in the ring, he pins O'Reilly. 1, 2, kick out. He goes over to Fish. 1, 2, it's been too long, kick out there. And they get up and they throw Gable outside because they've had a chance to recover, and they further injure Gable's leg on the ring post, and you get one of those commentator calls of, I just heard a pop! They get back in for a sequence with Owens and Sami, and Owens and Sami end up on the outside, but Gable struggles back in because he's a hero and a fighter, and he throws Fish out, but then O'Reilly capitalizes on Gable being isolated, takes out Chad for the win. This is the cue for Cole and Strong to rush in and beat up Gable afterwards with the lead pipe, and this writes Gable out for injury for the rest of our story. He can come back outside my fantasy booking, setting up plates. And Owens and Sami make the save of Gable. It's a babyface turn for Owens and Sami, but now the numbers start to get the better of them. They're outnumbered, really 4-on-2 with Gable out. But Finn Balor runs out, and the faces see off the Undisputed Era. Undisputed Era back up the ramp with the titles, but they're angry. And Balor, Sami, and KO, they all look at each other and they do the too sweet in the ring, but the Undisputed Era at the top of the ramp, and they do their pose, but they're angrier. And now we get on to the really good stuff. So the night after Money in the Bank, Balor is finally cleared to compete, so he's managed to get a match against Strong in Raw's main event. Of course, Undisputed Era don't fight if it's not for a title match, so Kurt says, I'm angry with you guys. You just wrote out 2 of my top stars, Gable and Roode. This is fantasy booking, bear with me. I can make top stars of whoever I want. And because of that, you have to have this match or you'll be stripped of the tag belts. So Balor versus Strong, and they've got their respective factions out there for the match. Strong has the Undisputed Era in his corner. Balor has Owens and Zayn. It ends in a no finish with a big brawl, but the Undisputed Era crucially get the better of them because of the numbers game, and they put Balor through the commentary desk. Following week's Raw, Balor, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn come down to the ring and they make a challenge against the Undisputed Era for the next pay-per-view, Extreme Rules. And the Undisputed Era come out to the ring and Kyle jokes, "Hey, if we have to take you on in a 4-on-3 handicap match, so be it. We're fighting champions. Look how well that worked out for you last week when the numbers game got the better of you all." But then Owens grabs the mic and says, "Well, you know what? Actually, We've found a rather unlikely ally to make it 4-on-4 because we were asking around backstage and someone else has taken offense to what you've been saying about all these NXT call-ups and how they've dropped the ball. And as us hanging out with Finn here proves, you don't have to like someone to find a common cause. And actually, this guy doesn't like anyone. In fact, he hates everyone. But lucky for us, he hates you four most of all." Adam Cole's standing there. He does his stupid face like, "I don't care who it is. Who could it possibly be?" Samoa Joe's entrance music hits. He's been off TV for a few months. He stomps down to the ramp. Cole's face just drops in that great way of his. Joe gets right up in Cole's face. It's a 4-on-4 stare down. Hopefully the crowd is as into this as like a Shield Wyatt family. This is awesome heat before they even touch. Quick brawl. Undisputed Era run away up the ramp holding each other like, "Oh no, we're so scared." Next week on Raw, Kurt has both teams in the ring for a huge announcement that's been built up and teased throughout the night. So you're like, this is going to be serious. And he announces that at Extreme Rules, Undisputed Era's tag titles will be on the line. And the Undisputed Era are going crazy, shouting, "Kurt can't do that, it's not even a tag match." And Joe is looking scarily intense, and Balor is nodding, smiling like a goofball. And, you know, they're a former team themselves. They won the inaugural Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic of 2015, which Undisputed Era won in 2017. Of course, that didn't turn out too well for Joe and Balor, who split and feuded for months afterwards. Foreshadowing, that's another plate to bring up later. Not in this fantasy booking, but, you know, later on. So while Joe and Balor are looking mean at the Undisputed Era, though, like they can't wait to get their hands on them, Owens and Sami just sort of turn and talk to each other, have a few words in the ear, and the commentators put over like, "Oh, I don't know what Owens said to Sami there," and it sort of implies, without giving anything away, that they're planning something. You know, they've got an ulterior motive all of a sudden. But then Kurt stops all this ruckus and says, "Oh, sorry, I wasn't done with my big announcement. The Undisputed Era are defending their tag titles at Extreme Rules is only half the big news. Because Extreme Rules isn't called that anymore. The Undisputed Era will defend their titles in 2 weeks' time in the main event of WWE WarGames in a traditional 4-on-4 WarGames match." Cole does this crazy shocked face. The rest of Undisputed Era are furious. Joe just attacks them. A brawl starts out and they go off air in chaos. We're on Raw again, it's the go-home show, and it's now announced at the top of the show that the pay-per-view is now called WWE WarGames Undisputed Era, which is just another way of getting this faction over as much as possible. They've got a pay-per-view named after them. That's NWO levels. And there's video packages throughout the night explaining what WarGames is, because it's only been done in NXT, hasn't been done for a long time before that. So to reintroduce this concept to the mainstream audience, you'll have legends talking about how brutal those matches were, how great those matches were, and going over the rules, which are complicated, for the match, which is effectively, there are 2 rings side by side, a giant cage is surrounding it all to keep it all contained, and people enter one by one. So it's kind of like a Royal Rumble, but with teams. So you'll have two people in the ring, then one team enters and you get 2-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-2. And then when everyone's in, you go into like Beyond Time or whatever it's called, and a pinfall or a submission wins it. So it's just one pinfall after that. It's effectively sudden death. And later in the night, as part of one of these hype packages, Sami and Kevin Owens are asked backstage about what Balor Club's strategy is going to be this weekend, when Kevin Owens stops the interviewer and says, "We're not in the Balor Club. We're part of Team Kevin and Sami with Samoa Joe, featuring Finn Balor in a minor role. Because whoever gets the winning pin over Undisputed Era, they'll surely be the new tag champs, right? There's 4 people in this team. There can only be 2 new champions. And the main event of Raw, as the go-home segment, is a steel cage match between O'Reilly and Sami Zayn. And this is mainly used to tease various cage spots for this weekend. And how much bigger as a visual representation this Sunday's match will be, as they'll need 2 rings, an even bigger cage to contain all 8 men. And the finish comes when a brawl starts on the outside. Undisputed Era take out Balor, Joe and Owens, and they prise the door open, and one of them gets in. But then the faces rally and beat them all up, and then a face gets in, but then a heel gets in. And you play out that staggered entry format. Michael Cole's obviously pointing out, this is exactly what'll happen this Sunday. The numbers advantage, the strategy of who goes in first, Robot Michael Cole. And Owens rescues Zayn when he's in there, because Zayn was in the match, he's been beaten up the longest, and he gets him out of there, because he's trying to save him, right? But this leaves Balor and Joe to get beaten up in the ring. And it kind of teases that Owens and Zayn might have a plan of their own, but it could also be that Kevin just wanted to help Sami. Undisputed Era pose in the ring with the tag titles over their heads, over Joe and Balor, and Owens and Sami look on concerned from the ramp. That's your go-home angle. Here we are, WWE WarGames Undisputed Era. It starts off as Balor versus O'Reilly, and then Fish comes out to sort of have that O'Reilly-Fish team, and they work over Balor strongly. Balor's main role in this storyline is to get beaten up and sell as a babyface. Then out comes Owens. Initially, he looks like he's not going to help Balor, but then he does, and he equals the odds. Then Strong comes out next to give the heels the advantage. Then out comes Zayn, and Zayn and Owens actually work together really well as a team here, and Balor. So it looks like, oh wow, they've really moved past whatever issues they had on Raw. But then here comes Cole, and as he walks down to the ring cockily when it's his turn, he's the last member of Undisputed Era to come down, he just picks up a lead pipe perfectly placed from under the ring, and he gets in the ring, and they beat down all the faces. All the faces are down. Undisputed Era are just waiting for Joe now. They're like, come on, it's 4-on-1. The countdown begins. It's Joe's turn to come out. He runs in there and kills everyone. It's a crazy hardcore match that ensues, and it all builds up to Balor doing a top of the cage coup de grace on Cole. But Owens catches him when he comes down. Don't worry, Cole's not going to take that. He rolls out the way. Owens hits him with a super kick as Balor comes down. And as soon as you think that's like, oh, Owens has just sided with Undisputed Era. No, he goes to pin Cole because he wants to win the tag titles in his mind. But Strong breaks up the pin. Fish and O'Reilly double team Owens as sort of the receipt for Owens taking a morally bad action, and Cole hits a super kick for the Undisputed Era win. And this can spin off into multiple different tangents. You got Fish and O'Reilly versus Owens and Sami for the tag belts. KO versus Balor is in there. Cole versus Balor, and eventually Demon Balor over, like, you never won the Universal title feud. And then you can have a 3-way between Cole, Balor and Owens. And just in there as well, Strong versus Joe. So vote in the poll above my head and click this video here if you haven't already to watch Luke's, and also vote on that one. Don't worry about which one you vote on, because we'll just tally up all the results for both videos and then we'll announce the winner. But yes, I've been Oli'Davis, and that was Fantasy Booking Warfare.